me to. All right, so hopefully you guys can see me, right? Oh, that would be nice. Well, not much. Can you see me, guys? Because I can't say anything. Yeah, okay. Because right now, uh, the website on YouTube is saying one thing, so I just want to make sure it's fine. So why don't we get into it? Everybody else will probably trickle in anyways. So welcome to the third episode, the fourth episode of the show. It's been one crazy week. A lot has happened, so we'll get right into the wrestling stuff. So I just want to make sure everybody's okay. I'm trying something different with the program, so hopefully, everything goes well. So we'll see what happens. Um, and hopefully, if something happens with this, I'll try it a different way because I tried connecting it a certain way that was makes sense. So we're gonna start with NXT. Last Wednesday, Undisputed came out. Cole is amazingly past 380 days right now, and Beth says he can't believe it. He survived the Dream match. It was a really horrible match. Cole says that no one could beat him. That'll actually preview to later in the week. Um, hold on. Mm-hmm. I had to check something. Sorry. Um, Basically, it led up to what happened later in the week with after Loomis and everything else. Lee came out saying he was wondering what's next for him and looks at Cole's title. Uh, Lee and Mia versus the Garganos basically. It basically started out breaking them down, both of them. Lee forgot about his hand for a minute. Mia and Lee worked well together actually, and then finally the bell rings. Mia is in control the entire time and slaps Candace. Lee and Yim throw the Garganos around like rag dolls. When they come back from commercial, it shows Candace in control and the momentum changed. Mia's tags, basically tags Lee in, and Lee is controlled and throughout everything. This match was kind of absurd at times. It went back and forth and everything. What's up, Tim? What's up, Priscilla? What's up, my homeboy Rob? Goes back and forth a lot, basically. Moonsault, springboards, multiple suplexes. You know, the fatal beat from Johnny hits Mark. Candace was underneath him, underneath Lee. Roll up by the win by the Garganos. Candace, it was out cold. It was interesting to see her completely like non-responsive and him just using her as a puppet. we'll see what that happens. Um, Warren basically says crime time. Crime time showed up and was trying to basically promote it, but Priest basically socked him in the head. There was a promo for EO also. You know, NXT was that much until the end. Um, the tag team squash match was okay. I mean, it wasn't really like eye popping. But Grimes gets caught saying when he was hitting on a couple of people, and Regal was pissed. It was one big pissa. uh, Then they turn. Next thing happened was basically Breezango was telling about how they got the tag teams to go into the next level. Tommaso, they did a vignette about Tommaso walking out after Takeover, and his body language and stuff was just kind of like moody and silent, you know. But I'm gonna skip the Rhea thing because that kind of just didn't make any sense. But Grimes and Balor was trying to basically keep the momentum going. Balor was working on his arm for a while. Grimes started taking control and but Balor hit Grimes with an elbow going across. The match was going back and forth for a long periods of time. Commentary was praising Balor's speed, and the match was extremely physical. A lot of nice knife edge chops. A lot of people basically going, ooh, how hard those were, basically. Um, you know, it's one of those things where it's just you hear it and it hurts. The crowd was cheering more chops, more chops, more chops. You know, basement drop kick with the chop are insane. Balor's at this point makes Balor to make a point. Grimes in control. Balor turns around and takes back the momentum. It's a little bit of going back and forth. Balor hits the double stomp and just takes over completely. Hits the coup de grace and tries to hit the coup de grace and basically misses, whiffs it like a baseball bat. Reverse 1986 hits, its mark, kick out. The whole crowd was basically screaming how good the match was, saying it was awesome. Balor hits the coup de grace and the 1916, and Balor wins. It was just unbelievable. And then going up, making a promo saying he wants the one title he doesn't have was awesome. Like, those things were crazy. Like, the chops were deafening. Even if with the big ass TV, it was literally deafening. Dakota basically squashed Casey because, well, I'm gonna call her Miss Ricochet because that's her boyfriend, basically. Casey hits a senton. You know, Dakota goes for a couple of drop kicks. Casey rolls over and lands a kick. Dakota basically wins, you know, with the GT kick. You know, and they basically make a point on her by just taking her out. Thatcher's promo, I'm excited for Thatcher for his training camp. I want to know where this is going to go. If it goes like anything like how the match with Riddle was, oh, give me that all time. The Phantasma thing, Drake comes out to congratulate him. Basically, the promo was, you know, setting up a feud for Drake with Santos Escobar, which is interesting that they started out him one way and transferred him to another thing. I think another time that happened was Andrade did something like that, but I can't remember when. But a lot of people will point that out for me, so that'll make it a little bit easier. Cole and Loomis was an amazing match. It was sick. It kind of was like a redemption match for Cole after the debacle that was for, you know, the Dream match at Takeover. It was completely intense. Loomis was just the great foil to Cole. You know, extremely offensive match. At some points, a lot of trash talking, saying that Loomis was a dummy. You know, Loomis basically tossed him around like a rag doll. A couple uppercuts here and there. You know, the psychology of the torment that he's putting on these guys is amazing from a psychological standpoint. But just one of those things, I'm just excited to see what happens with them if they continue this route with the Undisputed Era and Loomis. A couple of pinfalls here for a couple of 2 counts. Cole is taunting him still, you know, calling him a freak, a chump. Cole hits a net breaker, and Cole is being very methodically breaking down Loomis. Um, Loomis is smiling, asking for more, though, which kind of reminded me of Mankind at some points asking for just to keep getting hit. It's just one insane thing. Loomis basically hits a couple of German suplexes. Cole kicks out again. Cole gets a super kick on Loomis. It goes back and forth for a while. A spine buster. Uh, Loomis missed a senton bomb. Loomis with a couple of submissions here and there, strong kick, but Cole absolutely wins with the drive-by, with with the last shot. I'll call it a drive-by if I want. um, I thought it was a really good match. I thought it was just interesting, but like everybody says, the point of it afterwards was the whole thing about who is going to face Cole next, and it looks like it's Cross, and so Scarlett put in the reverse time clock on there, the sands of time clock. It means tick tock, Cole's on the clock. So a lot of the SmackDown stuff I'm not going to go through. The whole thing about the whole promo being an old school promo between Sheamus and Hardy was just it. Vince did it a long time ago. I guess I was seeing about him, but it was a really really fun part at some spots. For halfway through watching it, not live because I had to rewatch it due to for certain things. It cut out halfway through right before he freaking threw it. It was one big pissa. But the test comes back as Hardy's negative. New Day and the Artist win. It not really much into it. There's a couple of good moves, the belly suplex, the boom drop, and all that stuff for the most part. I think the majority of the stuff they were putting towards was the IC title, and that match was god awful good. Oh my god. Styles and Bryan going at it left and right, counter by counter, move by move. Different combinations of arm bars, drop kicks, right hands left and right. Bryan attempts the super submission. He keeps the pressure on it, exchanging a bunch of combos at the end, leg scissors, and both men are basically thinking the same thing. They do basically bounce off the ropes and get into a collision. Bryan basically attempts this yes lock, but gets thrown out of the ring basically. The match is amazing at this point. Bryan gets caught and hits and drives AJ's arm into the ring post. Bryan basically starts attacking the arm. AJ is torturing AJ's arm in ways it's not supposed to be made. Bryan it makes a mistake and tries to drop kick toward the corner and absolutely misses it. It whiffs it like a baseball bat. The match was freaking awesome. You could hear Bryan screaming about his knee when it was propped up against the rope in a torturous way. Bryan hits his Insecurity. This match is like literally a barn burner from start to finish. It goes off all the way. Like for a match that goes for the vast majority, like I looked on the timer, it was 30 minutes into the show and it lasted until like 30 minutes later almost. It was just absurd. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a rivalry and Extreme Rules they go for an Iron Man match. I would love seeing AJ and Bryan in an Iron Man match. And a lot of people haven't seen have saw that, so that makes it interesting. I'm surprised Sean's not here. I'm wearing the jersey. A couple of other things, a bunch of other yes movement kicks. Match is still going back and forth. These guys are putting everything in their arsenal out there. Ultimately, Bryan hits a couple of suicide hits one suicide dive. Wow, I could talk today. And basically, AJ kicks him on the second. They're working on each other's parts. The calf, the leg, the arm. He reverses the calf crusher a few times. It was just really good, really insane. couple those suplexes and the mark. This is literally a match, should be a WrestleMania match, regardless of what it is. Styles hits a Pele kick, and Brian Brainbuster at the same time a combo attempts another Pele kick, and Style gets put in an ankle lock. It was literally just one great thing after the other. Each move basically built up to the next thing, and AJ is so close after doing the yes lock, he basically forces a break. Brian's running knee, countered by AJ, hits the Styles Clash. Then the phenomenal forearm. AJ wins. We have a new IC title champ. And then Graves basically closed out the match, says the IC title for the first time is phenomenal. It was just ridiculous amount of everything. Just interesting to see how everything went. And they put everything on the line in that match. It was, if you had to do match of the year qualifications, you have Thatcher, Riddle, Edge, Orton, and then before all that, it would be this. And if they just had this as a technical match, not high flying stuff, it would have been so awesome. Put these two guys in the fight pit and see what happens. So Backlash, the pre-show basically was amazing. To me, it set the tone. You had Owens on commentary. Garza was out the outside. The match was still a basic match, really good. Andrade was in the control for the most part, hit the double knees. Cruz kicked out. Apollo had on top, and Andrade being slapped around basically like a slap dog. Missed the double stomp. Overhead suplex, exchange of amazing few things. Spine buster, pin 2 count. Apollo basically by Apollo. Andrade counters the Olympic slam, drop kick by Cruz on the mark. Joe is questioning the motives of Apollo of Kevin Owens at that point. The slaps by Cruz and Apollo were deafening, overthrew out the whole PC. Andrade hits a springboard DDT, was a vicious. Cruz with the double moonsault, KO with a stunner on the outside to Garza in the spinning power bomb, and Cruz wins. It literally was just insane. And Zelina flipping out was awesome. Women's triple threat, not much there. Cole stated that the titles would be on NXT, which I'm so excited for. Seeing Tegan and Shotzi, it's going to be awesome. About time, too. The NXT titles should be on NXT regardless of everything else. It's mainly been solely spread between two brands, which is crazy for myself to hear. But it has been like that, and it shouldn't be. It should be just straight up all brands all the time, but it's except two of them. So, triple threat match was really good, really interesting. But it ended up the same way, almost. Not the ending, but the match pace ended the same way as last time, where they had each individual match, like the Iconics and Sasha and Bayley, Boss and Hug Connection, I'm just going to call them that, against Bliss, Cross, and Applesauce. I mean, Cole stated that the titles would be on Wednesday, which I don't mind. The Iconics come in. Bayley and Sasha cut a promo in the background. It's kind of foreshadowing what could happen down the line, possibly in Boston. If it's still in Boston, which it's seeming more and more very doubtful right now. Just Alexa tags in, gets tagged in, goes all out. Alexa just said hi. Just interesting how the dynamic of all these women, they work so well together with Bayley and Peyton and everything else. Awesome bunch of pin combinations, a hell of a break locks looks. Man, I gotta type better. This was fun to see. Cross basically was going around crazy back and forth. Bailey's in. Nikki goes over to Bliss and takes over. Bliss is unhinged. Banks and Alexa on the apron and the train wreck outside. Face off, double team. Bliss is going for the Twisted Bliss, and Sasha and Bailey win. I seriously can't wait for NXT, though. This week's going to be awesome. Well, after that was the piss test. God awful piss test. This match, they had a recap about it, and then if you ever had to rewatch the Smackdown on demand, that segment is cut out completely. So it wasn't on the West Coast only; it was also just all across the board on the redirect. Match was extremely physical. Hardy was in control for the most part. Sheamus's trash talking was gold. Oh, there's a Warren. No Goldberg tonight. Hold on. Y'all said Barry hit me. Okay, hold on. Hopefully that works. Alright. So, welcome Warren, Thomas, Priscilla, Mr. Burns. Welcome, guys. Basically as physical match as possible. Keeps going. Sheamus is stalking Hardy. Sheamus is calling the crowd enablers, which is very poignant because some people say like doing their job is like a drug almost. Cole is Sheamus is basically yelling at Cole after hard hitting. Hardy was in control for some of the parts, but his adrenaline's kicking in. As the falls are getting closer, Cole's saying what's going to take to put Sheamus down. Twist of fate, pin attempt, bro kick, a combo ended it with a sling blade by Hardy. We're seeing sling blade being used more and more commonly, So, it's just very interesting to see that Seth uses it, Hardy's now using it, and Finn's using it too. So basically that makes sense if you're covering all three brands. Hardy on the top, but Sheamus knocks him down, pulls him out of white noise. Hardy is being gutsy. Cloverleaf submission broke ups. Sheamus is looking like he's frustrated. Sheamus post first twist of Sheamus hits the post, first twist of fate, hits the mark, swanton, and Sheamus's foot's on the ropes. Sheamus hits the bro kick on the outside and hits a second bro kick for the win. Another promo of a Universal title. So a lot of things like I said about, I picked, Bailey and Sasha to win. I picked Jeff to win. He didn't. Nia and Asuka basically was a double count out. There was a bunch of spine busters. There was a botched jackhammer in the match too. It was really scary as hell. When she got Asuka up, Nia did, and went down, it was very, very scary for me. I was just wincing. So just on the details, a lot of people watch. Asuka's trying all the submissions in her arsenal just to make it submit. And then it just went pretty much there. Nia showed out that she was really, really dominant. There was a couple spine buster. Asuka literally was a submission machine. She tried different types of submissions, and then Nia egging her on, asking where Kairi was. Oh man, just a long day. Just one. The other thing was a crazy powerbomb that had a sickening thud to it. It was just insane. Promos with MVP, Lana, but that we'll get into that. So there's a promo for the match for a music video. It was cheesy. Miz and Morrison using their speed to try to keep Braun off pace. It was just basically Braun being Braun and decimating Miz and Morrison, which was kind of it. The match basically ended up with a choke slam and a running power slam on Morrison. I know this sounds like not much for all this stuff, but some of these matches this past week have been really short. Not great, and then we get these barn burner matches. A good example was like Lashley with the full Nelson to start before the bell rung. The psychological aspect of it is interesting because you're trying to force your opponent to break down before you get into it. It's intriguing to know that some of the old school moves are considered still being used, like the full Nelson, but it's very difficult to see why you would do it standing. A sitting one would make it more useful. And because Lashley doing that, he had control very early in the match. He wasn't letting up on McIntyre the entire time. Hit him with you know, hit with the net breaker and then the Northern Lights by Drew. MVP's talking trash also out the outside. That's nothing new there. Lashley and Drew basically throwing each other around like rag dolls. Drew was up on his shoulders. A couple of like a botched. Well, what it was is that there was a move in the match where Lashley botched a move, which I think he got him on his shoulders. And he was trying to hit Drew with the post, but he dropped. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but I did. Like he literally fell with it, but he was trying to do it, and then he got it right the second time. So I mean, there was a couple of botches in this pay-per-view. I think Miz had one too. Someone said on Twitter. Lashley tried to spear Drew. Drew tossed him on the edge of the barricade. Drew's basically in control. Spinebuster served by Drew. Kick out. Lashley was set up. Gets a set of moves on there. Drew kicks out. Lashley looks like he's a demented cartoon character. At one point, his eyes were almost out of his head. Reverse Alabama slam. Drew on the top and hit in a crossface. Basically goes into a crossface. Drew was attempting a tombstone. It was very interesting. This whole pay-per-view also had a theme of, tribute moves. Drew had the tombstone, and then the match later on had a bunch. And also, this also had the Chimera lock also in it. So Drew basically put that on Lashley. Lashley with the spear, kick out at 2. Lana comes out and it just all falls apart. Claymore, Drew wins with Lana's interference. This match was simply amazing. It was just interesting to see how it went. The psychological aspect and then having Lana out was really, really interesting too. So, I mean, I want to see them go again. I think this is going to continue till past Extreme Rules. So, it would be interesting if they don't do that, who they put next. And I think they should put in front of Drew, Alistair. As simple as that. He's basically told him that to bring Lashley, the real Lashley, not his baggage, which was best quote of the night. I ranted on about this thing last week. I said something on Twitter. I lost. That's why I'm surprised he ain't here. I know Warren's probably in there laughing his ass off because I'm wearing a Bengals jersey again. But the segment with the Prophets had a lot of Easter eggs from Star Wars. The whole thing in the trash can with the lizard and stuff like that was interesting. Just seeing everything going on and stuff, was just way interesting to know that they pay attention to detail about that stuff. For example, Ivor trying to reach for the turkey leg. That's kind of like something you do in Star Wars where you're trying to reach an item and with the Force. So there's a couple of things. So the greatest match of all time. Or the greatest wrestling match ever. Anyway, I picked Edge. But the touch that started to make it feel great was Howard Finkel in the beginning. I mean, we just lost him recently too, so it was kind of a touching thing. Really didn't care about the Madison Square Garden stuff. So, I mean, it is what it is. But the camera angles themselves made it feel like a big-time, old-school, classic boxing match. It was just one of those things that just felt like it was so so interesting because it's like you see the high camera, and then also on the bottom, and then just the angles and stuff like that. I never gonna let this jersey down. You know, Joe was extremely hyped about it at one point. A series of arm drags, and then it's halted when Randy stopped. Randy had control completely for the majority of the match. Um, Edge had some doubt on his face, his body language too, read like that at times. You know, a couple of suplexes here and there. The PC crowd was rocking it like it usually would. Edge was focusing on Randy's arm for the most part. A couple of headbutts, stopped Randy with a suplex, busted up Orton out on the outside. Edge was still focusing on Randy's arm. This match was living up to the hype thus far. Randy breaks up a submission by Edge before Edge uses the RKO. Orton keeps his eye on Edge, and the crowd's just divided. It's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It kind of all divided halfway through. Edge on the announce table, as Randy said, almost saying he was going to kill him. I didn't really hear it that well. Orly Slotin. Wow, dry mouth. Orton slowly takes down Edge and methodically, both of them are going after each other. Edge is trying to break it up. Edge started rallying back with the. What's wrong with me today? It's nerves, probably. It's been a long couple of days. Basically, they start doing more of these tribute moves. The Three Amigos was one of them. Slaps across each other was crazy. This match became a lot more hardcore. Suplex, and Edge looked like he was out of it. Joe says Orton's loving it. Orton covers Edge and kicks out. Edge blocks the DDT from Randy. Hits the execution, roll out for two. Edge crossbody. Orton kicks out. The match is extremely physical again. These guys are putting it out on the line. Edge with a submission. Orton turns to a pin and hit Olympic slam by Orton. Orton's pin count hits a 2. These guys are spent. They're doing everything. They won't stop until someone wins. Orton with his patent DDT. Edge seems to be out of it still. But some more tribute news. Thank you for the subscription, Jordan. Some more tribute moves, basically. You had Orton with the pedigree, Edge with the impaler. There was a rock bottom, bookend kind of obvious thing. But these guys are going straight out into Arsenal. Still going back and forth. Edge kicks out about a comment. Commentary is going nuts, and Randy doesn't believe it. Orton's going to punt Edge, and a spear kind of stops him in there. 2 spears, and Orton kicks out. This is a holy shiznit kind of deal. This is wicked freaking good. Ed does a spring forward RKO. Edge kicks out. This is basically Wrestling Clinic 101 kind of deal. It's kind of like Thatcher Riddle at this point. Orton wins, basically punting him, kind of like somebody in the chat kind of pointed out, saying he knew it. Give credit to Warren for running his lap right now. I can't hate because I did that with Otis. Other than that, the match was really good and insane. At the end, Orton was like, "Go home to Beth, go home to your kids, and tell him Uncle Randy says hi," which was empowering. Later on, too, Fightful reported that on 6/14/20 that Edge suffered an injury. On Monday, they were confirmed by it that the surgery was just done. It's amazing that he had a torn tricep, and they leaned on that as a part of the story when Randy came out on Monday Night Raw saying, "I basically knew when it happened, and I didn't stop and wanted you to tear off the bone." So there was supposedly a return on Raw, which was good segue to Raw. I wish I could just host a chat for all that. That'd be awesome. But I can't. Kristen comes out, said Orton's cold and calculated, SOB. Randy has no say in what Edge his bookend story should be, how his story should end. Christian basically is trying to tell Randy off, but Randy is basically putting Christian in his place, saying, "You want one more match," which is cold and calculated right there. So the whole flirting with Garza afterwards of this, I forgot to mention that if there was a challenge issued by Orton, and if Christian didn't accept it, he would be considered a coward. The whole story of theme was going through that the entire time, with how, if Christian didn't do it he had to, it would just not seem right. It just felt weird. It was just like it was being pushed. Garza obviously still doing what he does. He's still flirting with Charlie. Zelina just gets pissed off. That was promo. Garza and Owens were really kind of a short match. It was okay. It wasn't that great. I think it's going to push these two away and put Andrade and Garza into the tag scene, which you need more strong tag teams. Zelina walks out with both of them arguing. Garza misses a Bronco Buster. Couple of slaps by Owens. Garza hits a drop kick. Distraction by Andrade. Garza basically gets kicked, and Owens hits it with the stunner to win. Zelina says they basically want the same thing. So MVP and Lashley are in the backstage talking. Says he was cheated out of there, because of Lana. It looks like this feud's pretty much going to go MVP and Lashley. MVP comes out saying he waited 13 years for that night and it was ruined. If Drew had the balls to capitalize on it and blames Lana for the WWE title, isn't on Lashley's waist. If Drew has any integrity, he would give him a rematch then and there. And then the whole Lana's great year ends. So a couple of weeks ago, if you remember on Raw, Lana stating that this is Lana's year. This is going to be the year of Lana. That ended real quick. 2 divorce lines in storylines, and we're not even in. It's not even July 4th yet. So she has 2 divorces within about 6 months. That I've gotten divorced not that long ago. It is just insane. The whole thing is just setting up the match for later on, and a couple of the things for Lana. Profits, ninjas, just get them in the bloody ring now. Just get them in there. There's a squash match with the ninjas and stuff. Show comes out. What can this guy not do? You have him as an actor, a performer, motivational speaker, and a ninja killer. Hunter. What the hell? Rollins cuts a promo saying about Dom's. He's like, sensing Dom's near. He needs to be here. It's just a message. It's gonna just send a message to Ray and Dom. Seth might have tiptoed on Star Wars themes again. There seems like they're getting closer to doing that. It's like, I need him here. I can feel him here. It's just really, come on. So Seth, on the next segment, Seth comes out. Ray says he declined to see him. Ray says he knows what Seth is capable of. That he wants to help Dom to get it, started. But he implores Dom to join Seth, and is basically what's good for Dom. But Seth is a little crazy, and Murphy and Theory are looking for Dom, and if Dom's not part of the solution, he needs to go. And Ray says he will end him. No, Rollins, you son of a bitch. No, Rollins, this. It's just one thing after the other. And then Dom walks in and basically destroys Seth, runs around like you're crazy and is quick. That whole thing to set up is just insane. You know, you gotta change the jersey. I lost a bet. I have to wear this. I'm a Pats fan. You know how hardcore and how hard it is to wear this. Um, you know, Truth basically doing what Truth does, getting himself into trouble, baiting certain things was funny, and then it just made Drew laugh. I mean, Drew getting into a situation where he had to put his title on the line was interesting, and then Truth wiggled out of his. Just yeah. But the thing also was is that we got Liv and Natty on TV. Liv versus Natty and the Iconics, which was really really decent. I lost a bet for the whole Jersey thing. I opened my mouth about something, Anakin. You know this. Foot in mouth all the time. Why do you think my buddy calls me Carp? I'm always random at certain times. But the match was like kind of like a squash match. I mean, Lid had a lot of momentum in there. Natty pushed off. The distraction from Royce. They hit the finisher. It was a quick match. Nothing really special. Um, then they appear off the show the motivational speaker. Liv and Natty on screen saying, Liv is just acting like a rookie, making mistakes. Natty said she beat the division, and then Lana walks in and stuff. I really think that Lana and Natalya are going to end up in a tag team. There's got to be more women's tag teams there than anything. So, I mean, it's interesting nonetheless. MVP Christian is basically uh, accepting Randy's challenge and stuff, and be trying to roll Apollo into his stable. That didn't happen. Charlotte and Rick in the back. That did not make one lick of sense of Charlotte being there and having nothing to do. It had no clue. Why are you going to have your 12-time women's champion just there and not do anything? I mean, granted, she was on Raw Talk and talking about how she was aggravated that she works so many days, and then there's people like Nia that come back, get a title shot. Sasha comes back, gets a title shot. It annoys her. She's like, why can't I? I beat Asuka twice. She should have a title match, and that's right. It's just interesting to see how everything goes. So, um, Rick being there made more sense than anything. So, Apollo versus Shelton, it was not really that much. I mean, it was just, talking trash in the beginning. Splash corner. As Shelton hits a big suplex, Shelton was in control for the most part. Roll up, and Benjamin with foot on the ropes, and Apollo turns around and wins. The last ride episode was awesome. I can't wait for Sunday. As soon as that comes out, I'm going to end up watching it. Just the intel of his life, about Taker's life, is really interesting. Truth and Drew are still talking about that it wasn't going to be his title, and Drew looks like he's seething. Profits versus Vikings finally are going to be on Monday. I pray to God, and I'm not going to say this because I open my mouth all the time, but I pray to God they keep this in the ring. I pray to God that they just literally put them in the ring, and that's it. Just end it. It just should be done with already. And what size? And if you want home or away? I'm a 3XL, and you could pick. I have no preference. Lashley MVP versus Truth and McIntyre. It was mainly just the same thing from the pay-per-view. Lashley and Drew going back and forth with just Truth going and everything else. A couple of tags here. MVP went in. Drew on a roll. Future Shock DDT. and a pin with a pin kick out combination. Lashley hits the stairs, Drew with the Claymore, and Truth off the ropes. It was kind of a funny thing, though. I'm just interested to see if they're going to keep doing this. And then is this going to be like a foreshadow of MVP going for the 24/7 title? Or is it just going to be something different? Rick talking to Christian saying that he knows why he's doing it. He should, and try to put it in different perspective. Bayley and Sasha cut a promo talking about how much fun this week's going to be. The Iconics rag on them like usual and egg them on for a match. Asuka and Nia rematch. Right now, Nia is basically laying it into Asuka, but it's the same thing that happened the night before. Asuka using her submissions again. Nia hits a right hand to Asuka. Nia trying to take control. Asuka is basically grabbing the armbar. Nia catches Asuka. Powerbomb again, like the night before, on the ground. Nia is basically in control the entire time. Asuka hits her with a couple of kicks. Hits a double stomp. Nia with a senton drop. Asuka foot on the rope. Nia pushes the ref, and then Asuka take advantages and wins. The thing with the Orton thing, it was going to be short anyways. You kind of knew that. Flair basically gives a low blow, and then Christian gets punted. Simple as that. Orton basically, the psychological aspect of this is saying Orton being, Orton psychologically seemed like he was an enabler to be someone internally of someone who was cognizant of knowing they did something wrong but not taking responsibility for it, saying to Christian that I'm sorry, but it's not my fault, it's your fault kind of thing. It just doesn't make any sense, just because of the fact that you're giving the perception of yourself as being one of those people that doesn't take self-worth, that you're not knowing what the difference between right and wrong is. It's a deep psychological intake on knowing where you are. Granted, it's a character, but at least, it gives you an interesting perspective on it. So the whole COVID thing. So this is going to be fun. As of last night, Anakin, I know you were there. Rob was in the chat. I think Stay Up and Keep It Up was there. They got snuck in that there was a positive COVID test last night. And we were in the stream for the Monday Night Review. Yeah, Tim was there too. Fightful.com stated in their video that the first round of testings was today. They told some, I believe I heard this right, don't quote me on it, I don't want to piss Sean off because I really don't want to get somebody upset today. I've already done that too much for the week. That some of the tests were early in the morning, and if there was too many, they sent them back to come back later in the evening. For a billionaire company, doing what they do, it stands for two things. You have 2 positive tests since the outbreak. They alerted the media before they alerted the talent. And it to me was very disrespectful, because you're putting people's lives in danger. You're basically showing to the talent that you really don't care. It's a travesty. It really is, because you're putting people's lives at risk. And from a PR perspective, being somebody who took a marketing shop and when I was in high school, and took communications, this is basically to show how incompetent you are as a PR firm, and that you're not taking the people who work for you more into consideration rather than the people out there. Granted, it's a job it's a job, and it's a good job. It's a good paying job, just like anything. My job, we have to wear masks, gloves, and everything every day. That is verbatim per code. But if you're saving millions and millions of dollars, letting talent go, you're cutting costs because you are doing stuff in the state of Florida, in your own facility, mind you, then it's almost inhumane and downright despicable that you're not putting those funds and efforts towards something that should be done right. It's ridiculous because of the fact that it puts the question of ethical answers, saying that is this actually worth doing and putting people's lives, health, and careers in harm? Yes, COVID cannot literally hurt you career-wise, but financially it can, because of the fact that if you're not working for 2 weeks, I know from me perspectively, if I'm not working for 2 weeks, I am hurting severely financially. And it's interesting because of the fact that COVID's not a joke, and it seems like WWE is making it into a joke. Like I said, I work extensive hours. I'm working like 50 hours this week, and it's just one of those things that's just going to happen. It is so freaking ridiculous that a corporation does not give two craps about their people. If you're going to start testing, and the outbreak was started in March, and you have two positive tests, the question now is that who else has it? There could be reports that they never even told anybody. There could be things that they never said. Who else has this virus? Now, granted, they announced on Twitter a little while ago that Braun's not going to be there on Backstage tonight. I mean, but still, you're showing negligence, you're showing incompetence, and you're also showing as a business the will to not take care of the people you employ. How cannot this be like this when the fact of the matter is that your health for each person is important? You have Ric Flair, over 7-year-old Ric Flair, in the Performance Center, and you announce this right afterwards. How stupid can you be in order to do so? Some of these states are literally, their cases are going down, but some of these are actually having second waves. And the thing about it is that it's ridiculous that they're not taking care of these people. It is imploring, and I'm imploring them. They might be considered independent contractors, but they're human beings. And it's just, you have to understand the fact that from a medical aspect, having family who are in the medical field, you could, if you have certain aspects of this condition, it could hurt. And it's very, very sad to see them almost be nonchalant about it, saying the rapid tests are not very accurate. I'd rather have a not accurate test than actually not be tested at all. Which meaning for me means I'd rather be tested and having a negative positive test just to be safe, rather than being dealt with not right. WWE, get your shit together, because eventually people are going to look at you compared to Ring of Honor, New Japan, AEW, Impact, and notice how the difference between they're taking care of their people and you're not. 2 tests positive. Only temperature checks, only. My work does temperature checks for us. They tell us to do it ourselves, and we have to report it every day. But then we have to report how we're feeling throughout the day. That shows they care. You don't. Clearly. Heyman being let go is kind of one of those things I wish they didn't. Ratings are determine everything, but you can't go by ratings. It's not a fruitful thing. It's not, something that is expected to show how they're doing. Heyman going is going to hurt because of the fact that he believes in the future rather than what was. And it's interesting to see now that he's gone how Raw was. They were trying to push everything in one basket and pray to God everything sticks. And I'm hoping that they do not keep doing this because eventually, I could tell you from a friend who watches Raw sometimes, the profit thing is turning him off. He doesn't want to watch Raw anymore. But it's just they have to figure stuff out. I was going to talk about NXT storylines. I thought they could, but I'm going to skip with that and hold off for next week. So this is what I was tweeting about, and I put stuff out personally just because I want some people to connect with it, connect with everything else. Since I was 17 or 18, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. Now you're going to be like, that's not a big thing. That doesn't seem right. But it is a neurological thing. It's a neurological disorder. And for me, I deal with it daily. Now, I've been lucky. My last seizure was in 2002. I've been on my medications on a regular basis. I've been very blessed in that matter. But for some people, there hasn't been. And with the whole discovery with the physical aspect of wrestling, with concussions and stuff like that, head trauma, everything, I can tell you from personal experience, dealing with something that is caused by a head trauma is not fun. Now, I don't want to upset people and make them think I'm asking for sympathy or anything like that. I'm used to telling people my story about this stuff because I want them to relate with certain aspects. I do have symptoms at times. Not a lot. Once in a blue moon if I'm stressed. I think the last time I've actually had one was, when my mom passed a year ago. I just had a couple and that was it, like very bad symptoms. But other than that, it's been kind of okay, hand twitches, stuff like that. But for people who have other things like bipolar or PTSD or something else, those are neurological disorders. And for me, with the epilepsy, the medications they give you are based off of what they give for certain things. So mine is ones they give to people who have bipolarism. So sometimes my emotions can weigh back and forth at times. Sometimes I'll be fine for weeks. Other times I'll get a headache here and there, and it will be extremely painful. There's been times where I've had migraines so debilitating because of my epilepsy, I couldn't even stand. But people who do like wrestling and baseball and stuff like that, if they get hit in the head, it could be even worse. So this is just me stating and trying to be upbeat and positive and teach people about epilepsy because it's a stigma that people who have epilepsy a long time ago, years ago, they were part of, the devil, they were possessed and stuff like that. And now it's just part of the norm. So if you want to know more about epilepsy and stuff like that, I can tell you what I know from personal experience, dealing with all of it on a daily basis and stuff. You can hit my DM up and I'm gladly willing to answer it. It's difficult to explain a lot of things because a lot of stuff that happened to me, the euphoric feeling, for me when I have my, because I was categorized with catatonic clonic with petit mal symptoms, and what that means basically is that I get the euphoric feeling, I go into a seizure, and I don't remember any of it. My body takes over, it becomes very violent. I've had stories where people have told me that the two I had in high school that I got up and I was very violent. I got up some way, shape, or form, and I started beating people up. The dean I had at the time, I left him with a bruised eye, a black eye and everything. I'm a big dude. I can go, but I've got a good heart and I can't hit people with it. So, well, it's been the top of the hour. So hit that subscribe button, guys. Slap that bell for notifications. Every time I'm here doing a show, I'm doing it just because I love to. I love being part of this community. Also, go support Fightful.com, Fightful Select. I really appreciate everything they do. I am a Patreon member, and I can tell you right now, as of right now at 9 o'clock, as I refresh, they're still 8 members away from 750 Patreon members for Fightful Select. So let's get that up to either 750 or even get it up to 800 and see what happens. It would be an interesting thing to push it through, try to get out of his thing. Also, the guy in the chat, Mr. Gorgeous Locks of Hair Quarantine Man, New Japan Pro expert, Mr. Warren Hayes. He's got a show on Thursday. Slap the bell on him. Go into the chat. Just say hi. The super chat training will be rolling up tomorrow with him, Lewis, and Alex tomorrow for the Wednesday Night Wars. And then Sean will be with Warren on Friday to do the Smackdown review. There's stuff going in the pipeline for me. There's going to be a new logo going to be revealed soon. There is some things in the works that Sean announced yesterday with me. So stay around. Hopefully we can all do all this stuff. Me and Warren are talking about a couple of things. So, I'm hoping to make you guys proud, bring out good content and stuff, and just try to keep doing it. Also, go to BelltoBelles.com. right there, whatever it is. And check out the articles that Christian Ashley puts out for BelltoBelles for about women's wrestling. Go to Fightful.com for your best news for all around wrestling, MMA, and boxing. Jerry Lambert, Sean and the gang literally will help you out. Do what you can. Like I said, go see Warren too. Warren does really good work. In-depth reviews for the pay-per-views and stuff like that. One day I'm hoping to be a part of that at some point down the line if Warren allows it. But I really appreciate every you guys. I really look up to a lot of people in the community since I'm just starting this, and I really appreciate it. Be safe, be kind, do a good deed, and pay it forward.